Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aussie Formula Racing. We're here tonight for the final round on F1 22 AFR Season 10. It's round 15 and the championship decider. My name's Gus Rules, and I'm here tonight with the one and only Mick Howe. How are you going?
I'm doing well, Gus. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a historic night for Aussie Formula Racing because we don't have just one title decider tonight, Gus, but we have two. That's the
Absolutely.
first time ever that there's been that both tiers have gone to the final race in the same season. So I'm looking forward to it. We have three main characters for tonight's finale, and I'm really curious to see what performances they bring when it really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Crush currently is the championship leader. But we do also have Big Al and Ryan as our contenders. And I believe, Mick, you've run the numbers and you've got the scenarios that Crush needs in order to take home the trophy tonight.
Well, Crush's goal is very simple. He needs to be on that podium at the end of the race, Gus. If he does that, regardless of what Al does, regardless of what Bell does, he's got it. He is our driver's champion, and the famous three-peat has to wait another at least a year and a half, right? But if he's not off of that, if he's off of that podium, then Al or Fever, either one, needs a race win in order to seal it. And that's assuming that Crush finishes, sorry, I'll backtrack a little bit. If Al finishes second, then Crush needs to be 7th or higher in order to secure it. There's a bit of a gap between Crush, Al, and Fever. Al's 11 points behind, Fever's 14. So we'll see how things play out over the 36 laps, but we already have some flying laps, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on board with Mate at the moment, who I think is the second driver on a fast lap. I think probably Pepsi traditionally is the first one out on track to do a hot lap. Jumping on board with Bate here, doing a run on the soft tyres. He's got a bit of traffic there.
Pepsi staying off the line as he's invalidated into what's famous. Well, I like to call the duckbill, Gus. It's the slowest corner on the whole track, I believe. Down to second or third gear. And then there's one proper corner in this final sector before it's just foot flat to the floor. And just seeing how much top speed these Formula 1 cars have.
Yeah, all about taking the path of least resistance here. You'll see he goes right up against the edge of the track limits and the wall on the pit straight. He'll come across with a 108.38 for first time, so does go fastest, but we'll keep an eye on the other times as they fall. Going to jump down to Farmer Sam, who's in Sector 2 on a flying lap as Mike Hunt goes fastest, but T-Mac 107.8 is now fastest in that Alfa Romeo. So coming up to a little bit of traffic there for Farmer Sam as comes into that tight and twisty section, coming up to, as you called it, the duckbill with his fish helmet. Very aquatic theme going here with Farmer Sam. And infamously, that corner where Lewis Hamilton went for that big dive bomb on Alex Albon and ruined his chances of getting a podium. Pretty tidy lap so far from Farmer Sam as he makes that big hill climb up to the start-finish line. It's a couple of corners, but they are dead flat, as you say, in these new cars. And here we go, across the line, Farmer Sam. Only 6th fastest, 109.22. We did miss his first sector. Might have made a mistake there, but I'm sure he'll be looking to improve in the rest of the session. Now, going to jump on board with our championship leader, Crush. It's his trophy to lose tonight. Just has to outscore Big Al and Eva in order to get that trophy. So we'll stay on board with him for this lap. Miko, you want to take it away?
Yeah, nice and cleanly through the center S of Sector 1. DRS wide open now as you come towards one of the favorite overtaking spots on the track. Turn 4, 5th gear. Plans to throttle down. Keeps it nice and tidy. You want to keep a tight line through 5, now into 6. And you just feel the rear just slipping a little bit, trying to angle that car in as much as you can get away with. And then you come into the slow technical middle part of the lap, trying to keep the revs low to keep the rear end stable as Potsy goes to the top of the 107.3. flat out towards the final sector. One proper corner here. He's touched the grass on entry, and that's going to cost him a chunk of time and a poor exit as well for the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, had a big snap mid-corner there. You saw he missed the apex and had to gather the car up to avoid going into a spin, and that's going to hurt his run all the way up this hill. That entire third sector is basically just one corner, and he's made a mistake. He still managed to go P2 with a 107.752, but I can see definitely there's probably a couple of tenths there that he's lost all the way down that straight.
Yeah, 2.5 tenths for our championship leader between himself and Potsy in that final sector. And there we go, Fever, 107 zip for his first run of the night. And he's been putting in a lot of work. He does not want to lose this championship, Gus.
No, definitely not. Big Al's also in contention as well, just following him at the moment as he goes through Sector 2 in his Alfa Romeo. His teammate currently sitting on P4, so there is pace in that car tonight. Can Big Al get it all together? We've seen... Oh, no, he's had a big moment there, and he's gone off into the grass. And he hasn't validated, but that's going to have absolutely ruined this time. I wouldn't be surprised if he just comes straight back into the pits at the end of this lap, Mikau.
Yeah, well, he was taking it quite easy in that middle sector. I think he was just charging up the battery after a prior mistake. But despite having a little bit of grass on his tyres, he's opted to try yet again. He has a 118.6, but that's not representative at all as we stay on board with the Alfa Romeo.
Oh, yeah, a bit greedy there on turn 2. You can see all 4 wheels across that white line, and that's invalidated this lap. So while with the bare minimum fuel in the car, you can get a couple of runs here at Brazil. I don't think he's going to have enough in the tank to do another one after this, so I think we'll be seeing him coming in.
Come back from the pits. Mates on his second run. Only a couple of drivers out there on track. You know, we've seen one of Bates' laps before. Let's go on board with the McLaren of King J, who inside. Zach Brown has told us he's turned off his racing line assist for this one, so hoping to try and learn properly, as I like to say.
Yeah, for sure. He's currently down in P11. Is King J 109.094. So you see he's a bit off the pace compared to everyone else ahead of him, but once you've started driving without the racing line, you do start to get a feel for it, and the more laps you do, the quicker you do become, and the more consistent you become. So expect that time to start reducing over the course of the session. There's still 10 minutes to go, and he'll probably do a few runs on the same set of tyres just to get a good feel for running it, as you say, properly.
Mate becomes the, 7th driver to make it sub at 1 minute 8, and he puts in a 107.7. Puts himself on the second row. Now let's see what King J is able to do. It's been a tidy lap, Gus, but not the fastest that I've ever seen.
Yeah, he might just sneak
to the left-hand side.
Might just sneak into the 108. So he does 108.6. So now he's just 4 tenths behind P10 at the moment. So I think, with a few more runs, I think you might see him just creep a little bit closer to the rest of the field. Jump on board with Trin, currently in the Ferrari, filling in tonight. Good to see him back in Tier 1. Just hope.
Like the helmet drip as well. Look at that.
Very nice helmet. It's very tight. With the yellow flag in the final sector. I think that's just fuel for Big Al. Yep.
Yeah, he's out of fuel. Just going a bit slowly. Warns Jack Humphreys that there's a slow car ahead. Unfortunately, he's a bit far back to get the tow, but Jack's got to put in a really nice lap. He puts himself in the front row at the moment.
Oh, 700s off Fever for P2. Solid time there.
Trin on his big return. You love to see it. What's the Ferrari reserve able to do? Puts it right behind T-Mac. 7.8.
300s off T-Mac there. That's a very, very competitive time. So within a second of provisional pole as well. And you can see there, 4th down to 7th, covered by less than a tenth and a half.
Potsy is starting his second run as well, as we have just under 8.5 minutes left to go in the final qualifying session of the season. The two-time champ in that Williams car, of course, won his first championship with the same outfit in season 5, and a very talented driver. I had the great privilege of going wheel to wheel with probably one of the best racing drivers the league has ever seen. Just his race IQ and his ability to control the car throughout a stint is really unmatched, but he's typically struggled with one lap pace as he has a little bit of a slide out of turn 8, Gus.
Yeah, definitely had a bit of a snap there in Sector 2. Very slow technical part of the track. Requires you to be really on top of your throttle control to light up the rears very easily. But his Sector 3, well, the one corner of Sector 3 looked pretty tidy, so he's recovered a fair bit as he comes across the line. We'll see if he's improved. And he improves by a 10th, but not much more in it. Still 10th and a half behind Jack Humphries there in P2.
Not looking great for Crush at the moment, sitting in 6th place right now. He's on another attempt as well. And his teammate for this evening, Big Fisher, started a lap. He's currently 8th as well at the moment, Gus.
Yeah, I think he's just starting a lap here. You can see trying to straight line it down to turn, what is this, turn 4? 2, 3, 4, yes. Oh, he has a bit of a wobble on the exit and he's aborted that lap already. He's right out of the throttle now.
He's not the only one who's aborted a lap. Ryan Bell, FIBA, ran wide at the exit of 7, trying to open up that corner as much as possible. And yeah, he's trying to recharge that battery to have another run. But that's a fail attempt for FIBA. And I just want to point out, I did beat FIBA in Equal Machinery. So, you know, he's had a few hiccups, but he's been driving phenomenally this season so far.
Yeah, we were just joking before the stream started. Mick Cow's essentially doing a Rosberg. He's recently retired from AFR and league racing in general, and has moved into a life of commentary. So expect all the relevant Rosberg memes to get thrown around throughout the coverage.
FIBA's teammate for this evening, Big Sandeezy.
Yeah, saw him snuck in. Oh, he's just lost it. Yeah, he's just lost. I saw he just snuck into the session as well, not that long ago. Good to have him back as well for the final round of the season. The final round as well on F1 22. So yeah, new game will come out next Tuesday. So looking forward to that one. Seeing.
Well, that's if you shell up the extra $18.
That's it. I'm in inflation and everything, you know.
Al finally gets a representative time on the board, Gus. He's now on that second row next to his BDE compadre Potsy.
That's right.
About 10th behind.
BDE sandwich there, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And Big Al, a couple of tenths quicker than his teammate, but typically we expect him to be a bit faster than teammate. So I wonder if he's still got a little bit more in the tank that he can ring out. So I think Sandeezy's had a moment in Sector 1 as well. Yeah, so he's cutting the Senna S's. He's recovering from a spin. We've got a slow car. Oh, Farmer Sam missing his front wing. I wonder if he's had a bit of a moment in Sector 2 there. We did see the yellow flag pop up as FIBA goes faster into the 106s now with 106.950. And yeah, Farmer Sam's going to limp that Alpine back to the pits to get a new nose put on it. He's currently down in P11, 108.078, not far off from sneaking into the 107s.
I mean, we expect FIBA to just run away with this. I mean, his pace is undeniable, but props to the rest of the grid for being so competitive. I know it's a short lap, but even still, to have, you know, the top 10 separated by only a second is still incredibly close. I mean, you have one little moment and that's 2.5, 3 tenths. That's how close the margins are in qualifying. We've gotten used to seeing it over the past few seasons, but it still just blows my mind how fast and just how efficient really all these drivers have gotten over the past year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a kebab in chat saying, isn't esports 106.7? Now, I'm not 100% sure. Mickey, do you know what kind of times esports are putting in here?
That doesn't sound too far off. Maybe, I mean, we know that that FIBA is more than capable of performing at that top level, as is Humphries, as is Potsy, as is Al as well. Some big names, also from the OFI Invitationals, and they've been doing really well in that series as well. So, yeah, these guys are their pace just blows my mind.
Yeah, Kebab just saying that Blakely did a 106.6 in esports, so just 3 tenths off his Ryan Bell there. Absolutely insane pace that he has.
It's a very quiet track at the moment, Gus, as we're in the calm before the storm, I'd like to call it. Just around 3 minutes left to go. in qualifying, we have Mike and Pepsi out there on circuit at the moment, both just about to start their final laps for the session.
Yeah, I was on board with Pepsi just a moment ago, and he made a little bit of a mistake. Oh, as we see, there goes
Oh, there's a
Mike.
big
He is
mistake.
out. He is out of qualifying. He has broken that front left suspension, so he is done. And I'll see if I was able to grab that replay properly. And yeah, here we go. So he came into turn 1, and yeah, just lit up the rears and before he turned that steering angle and just sent him straight into the wall.
That's the thing with these cars. Like, we've had it for the past 2 seasons now, but even still, like, you try and get that extra, 1 to 5% out of the car, just put on the power a little bit earlier than you normally would, and the car will bite you for it. It's not like previous games where, you might have a little bit of a snap, and that's about it. If you overstep the mark in these kind of cars, you'll know about it, and you'll be in the barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually feel it when the car goes. It snaps so quickly. It's I do find sometimes that you don't quite get the force feedback when the car starts to slide, and you've got to be really attentive of what's happening, because once, as you say, once it does start to go, it goes.
Well, it's all on the line now. All cars are out there on circuit, except for Pepsi and Plevs.
It looks
There's
like
another newcomer, Pepsi, calling it quits there. The best he'll hope for is 12th position. I think Al's doing 2 warm-up laps. You don't see that very often.
yeah, there he is. He's in that final sector, I think. We're on board with Jack Humphries. He's just invalidated. I think Sneaky behind him. No, that's the other McLaren, but Sneaky's going across the line to start a lap, so we'll stay with the McLaren at 4 now. It's currently down to P10, 107.948. And
I'm just going to keep an eye on our contenders to see how they're traveling along. Al's teammate T-Mac has been showing incredible pace around this circuit as of late, as Trin has put it in the wall just after turn 2. And quite a few yellow flags all over the place, Gus. There's a lot of traffic out there on track right now.
I mean, I'm going to assume that's Sandesi in the infield, and it's not FIBA, who's had a spin in Sector 2.
You would be correct, yes.
Yeah, we got the Ferrari of, I think that is still Trin. Oh yeah, he's retired now. Turn 3.
Phoebe is gone as well. He won't be setting a final lap. He's put it in the barriers at turn 4. And as the checkered flag now drops, what can Potsy hope for? He improves yet again, but it's still not enough. He'll stay on that second row, a 107.164. Sneaky goes across in 5th. We make that 6th as T-Mac beats him there and lines up with his teammate. Batemate, the best he can hope for is 8th place. Now a championship leader is going through that final corner. Has he put the lap together that he needs? Because if he starts 9th, finding that podium is going to be quite the ask. And he needs to be in the mix if he wants to secure this Drivers' Championship. What's it going to be for the AlphaTauri? It's 5th place for Crush.
Here comes Big Al as well. Improves by about 700ths of a second and stays ahead of Crush. But only P4 for Big Al. So FIBA at the moment in the box seat to clinch this championship this evening as Jack Humphries. Oh, he nearly breaks into the 106s, but I think he was on a 107.045, I think it was.
Yeah, really, really close. But it is Ryan Bell who will take pole position with Jack Humphries lining up alongside and Potsy, completing the top 3, followed by Big Al and Crush. 4-5 T-Mac, a very strong qualifying in 6th place to support his teammate in that title fight. Sneaky in 7th, Fisher in 8th, Batemate 9th, and Trin on his return rounds out the top 10. So a great showing there from the Ferrari reserve with Farmer Sam, Apollo Pepsi, Mike Hunt, King J, Sandesi, and Plevs not setting a time. He will start 16th and on the back row of the grid, Gus.
Yeah, just 9/10ths covering the top 10, Mikhail, so it's very, very tight qualifying there. We'll just have to wait and see how they go for race pace. And consistency is going to be a tricky one.
It's a lot of laps.
It definitely is. I think it's one of the most laps we have on the calendar. I think it's 33, 36.
That's 36.
36, there we go. A lot of
36
laps.
laps ahead of the drivers. Fever in the perfect spot to
That's right.
maximize his chances for that dub, that championship. Al not in a bad spot either. Crush, I would have expected to be a little bit higher up the grid. Getting a podium from 5th isn't impossible. We've seen him do it all season long. But when overtaking can be quite challenging, especially in the DRS train around here, I mean, you got to hope for better.
Yeah, absolutely. So as it stands, how are we looking on provisional standings for the end of this race? If they all finish in these positions, has
We are the
February?
first driver to ever, in AFR history, complete the three-peat.
Wow.
It'll be Fever. No one's done it. Fever's got 2 in a row as things stand at the moment. Pacey got 2 back in the day, 2 in a row. Revo got 2 in a row back in the day as well, but no one, Gus, nobody has ever gotten 3 in a row. Will Fever be the first and only driver so far to complete that feat? Well, we'll have to find out in 36 laps time.
Yeah, absolutely. So just looking at the tyre compound choices for the start of the race, everyone on the hards except for Potsy, Trin, and Mike opting for the medium tyres. So obviously,
Been on the in the infield as well. That's Farmer Sam at the inside of turn 3. Try to warm those hard tires up. Since it's such a short lap, these tires don't have a lot of time to really get up to temperature. And with such a short run down to the first braking zone, it can make the first corner quite a tricky one to navigate.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just having a look at the chat as well. It looks like Pepsi's wheel keeps messing up and it won't let him shift up. So that might explain why. Oh, as we see an Alfa Romeo go straight off. I think that might have been T-Mac. So yeah, keep an eye on Pepsi. May have some sort of mechanical issue down there in P12. We just got that sorted in between the sessions. So go AWS predicting that those starting on the mediums should be pitting around about lap 16. That would imply that the hard runners will be going to about lap 20. So we know that sometimes Codemasters forgets to update those predicted strategies over the course of the game, but we'll just assume that it's correct.
I think it's pretty close. From what I've heard, I think drivers are thinking of pitting a little bit earlier off those medium tires to get a little bit more of an undercut, and that the hard runners will be pitting a little bit early, maybe pitting a little bit earlier as well to get the most out of the softer compound when the fuel has all but been consumed. But we have and that's not how you want to start your championship decider race. Failure parking test.
That's it. Although it's not the most important thing in the world to get in your grid spot correct, but hopefully these tires aren't too cold.
Do you want the honors, Gus?
No, you can go for it.
Alright, okay, well, as all the cars are now in their grid slots, we're just waiting for the light sequence to begin. And the anticipation is building, Gus. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time, maybe 3rd time I want to say, off the top of my head, that the maybe it's only the 2nd time that the championship for Tier 1 has come down to the final race. And things those tires are cooling down, and I think they're gonna need to redo it. Well, I think something must have happened to our lobby host. So
possibly it could be someone. Oh, here we go, migrating host. Yeah, good. Who's the host? Big Al or Bait?
It's Bait.
All right, we might. I might.
Still not moving.
I'll red flag it.
You don't usually see the red flag before the race has even started, but I suppose it happens from time to time. I mean, you know, it wouldn't be F1 22 without it, Gus.
No, absolutely not. It's just building to the suspense, and see how we go. Get that sorted. Yep, and everyone will be leaving the session now while we get that sorted. So, oh, apologies for the false start there. We'll aim to get that set up nice and early.
The anticipation is killing me, Gus.
Absolutely, we just had to do it. It's been Clearly, this has been manipulated, man, or something to that effect. All right, we're just going to jump into the new lobby. Got the invite out already from Bait.
This also gives everyone a second chance to decide their starting compound. We saw a few medium runners there, like notably Potsy in there starting on the second row. Opted for the medium tires on the first run around. So we'll see if any of them backtrack and go to the more conventional hard to medium strategy, or if they'll commit to having that grip off the start and getting track position early. Or perhaps Gus, some of them will switch off of the hard tires, put on the mediums, and be like, you know what, I want some track position, and I just want to get in there straight away, get down and dirty, and make a scrap of things.
Well, I'll throw one more spanner in the works. We are running on dynamic weather, so what if it's a wet race?
Oh, that could I mean, that's too much spice for me, Gus. It's not.
I mean, it would just be fitting, but we'll see what happens. So,
I
so
think
waiting.
if it's a wet race, then I think then Phoebe's just gonna to run away with it. In all
Yeah,
honesty, just having absolutely zero spray in front of him, just clear track, fastest driver out there. Doesn't have to worry about any DRS shenanigans going on in his rearview mirrors, and I can just drive off into the sunset as he's done many times before.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree. I think definitely if it goes wet, it's probably Phoebe who's got the most practice in those conditions, and I think yeah, I mean, Big Al, I think will probably give him a run for his money, but I feel that Crush would probably struggle a little bit more for pace compared to the others, especially with his current position. It'll be very difficult around Brazil to overtake the number of positions he needs to guarantee that he'll win. Um, so, yeah, we'll hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, if the rain does indeed fall, I mean, there's two ways to look at it if you're in Crush's point of view, right? Yes, you're going to be caught up in traffic, and you can just see Fever just grow, and just that gap just continue to grow and grow out front. But we've seen it through this season. We saw it through last season as well on F1 22 that these cars are a handful. These cars are a real handful in wet conditions, and there have been many races that have had major incidents and major collisions early on in this in the races, and Crush typically has been really good at avoiding those somehow. So that might be what he needs in order to get into position to secure this championship from a probably less than ideal grid spot in wet weather. It's gonna be a rough one if it does
For sure, yeah.
open up. I'm looking at the text chat at the moment, Gus, and it's everyone just praying that there isn't a single cloud in the sky at this moment. They're all dreading it, even those who are starting, probably a little bit higher than they would have expected coming into this one. They're even dreading the rain as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you in this lobby spectating?
I will be very soon.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So looks like all our drivers have loaded in, so they'll just be setting up the grid for the restart. And I believe there won't be a formation lap, so I hope for the driver's sake that it is dry, because no formation lap on a freshly wet track will be very sketchy.
Yeah, no formation lap means that those tires will be up to temperature and ready off of the start, so you don't need to weave the crap out of it, if I'm allowed to say that. Going down the straights, just trying to get as much temperature as possible, especially on those white-walled hard compound tires, because it is really tough, Gus. Really hard to get those hards ready to go off the line. But in saying that as well, we've had a lobby restart. Everyone's kerfuffling around, and that I just want to talk about mindset a little bit while these guys are setting up the grid. after qualifying finish and you're doing your formation lap, you're like in race mode. You're ready to go. You're like, heightened senses of awareness. You know exactly where your car is in space. You know exactly where your competitors are, and you're just in that lap one, turn one race mode. Just this out of body, just being really, trying to get the most out of the car, most out of your situation, and most importantly of all, make sure you keep your car in one piece and facing the right way.
Yeah, that's it. I dare say we're probably going to see a few safety cars if it is wet, but I mean we're talking a lot about the wet. It's still going to be dynamic, so it may very well be completely dry like it was originally forecast, but it would just add a little bit more spice to this championship decider. And
And it's been almost for 5-10 minutes since the end of qualifying, so they're in that heightened. If they trying to stay focused and composed, they have to be in that sort of high, ready to go race mindset for a long time without finding a rhythm. So, and with no formation lap, you just go from 0 to 100 if you've decided to relax a little bit. Maybe use the restroom, get a drink of water, whatever you need to do. And we've seen many incidents at Brazil turn one. It's a very tricky complex of corners in that first sector. So they're going to have to be on it, especially if you're one of those fighting for the championship in this final race of the season. But looks like things are ready to go now, Gus. And
yep.
If it is truly no formation lap as what is being said, then well, we're going to have to be ready to go as well. Not just the drivers, we're going to have to be ready to take our viewers through this action as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the countdown now. Lobby is loading now. And so we'll switch back over to the F1 game footage. Thank you for your patience and bearing with us. A short delay. Sure, the new game will have absolutely no bugs at all.
I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, I've heard promising things.
Okay.
I will be honest. I've heard promising things, especially with the handling. I don't know how the online servers are going to meet the demand, because that always seems to be an issue. But at least from the handling side of things, only praise so far from some of the biggest names in the F1 esports community. So looking forward to it. Hopefully that means the car's a little bit more raceable, and we're going to see more of that side-by-side action that we're so desperately wanting to witness from some of the top drivers in the OCE region.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. So fingers crossed for next week's launch. It all goes smoothly. Just waiting for all drivers to load their setups and confirm their race strategies. Let's see, Mike dropped out of the session. He should be able to rejoin though, as he did take the grid, so his AI should control his car until he rejoins. At least I hope so.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. Like, I mean, we've seen. My mind goes back to Canada, right? Where I like to call him Baitbot. Gained him, 3 positions before he even joined back.
Better at race starts than Bait was himself.
Yeah, exactly. The guys are ready to go, but looks like we're ready to go here as well for the final time on F1 22, guys. It's 5 red lights prime. And they're out and away. It looks like Fever getting up nicely off the line, covers off Jack going into turn 1. And Potsy up round the outside now as Jack goes to the inside. A little bit of movement towards the back. Looks like Fisher and Farmer Sam trading places there. Looks like Apollo Pepsi and Mike Hunt as well further down at the back. But it's Fever, now Potsy, Humphreys, Big Al, Crush, T-Mac, Sneaky and Trin, your top 8.
Yeah, very good start from Fever. He's pulling away from the rest of the field, but looks like we do have Potsy going with him, who's had a very good start as well. So we've got a Ferrari spinning around in the background. That looks like it might be Plevs. I think he's still in the race, but that is going to be a fair bit of damage. And I think we have a virtual safety car.
And the virtual safety car is out. Just a quick note on tyres. Potsy did indeed commit to starting on that medium compound tyre, and that's what was made the difference off of that race start. Getting that 1 position there. Trin as well, from 10th to 8th on his medium set of tyres, but unfortunately the same can't be said for Mike. He's in his AI didn't quite get the the race that he was looking for.
Absolutely, and I'm not sure if he's got control of it now, but he's also copped a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Farmer Sam, just watching him at the moment, he's missing his front wing, so he'll have to come into the pits to get that replaced. So at the moment, Potsy gaining 1 position, Jack Humphries losing a position. We've got Trin up 2 places, Reese Fisher and Batemate down 1, Pepsi up 1, Sandizi up 3, and Farmer Sam, the biggest loser, down 4 places, currently in the pits with Plevs.
Bit of a little bit of an incident on the first lap, but otherwise it was all clean as it's green flag racing once again, and Potsy is all over the rear diffuser of that Aston Martin. Gus, look at this.
Yeah, it looks like he had a really good restart on that VSC, just times the acceleration really well. Down the inside he goes, Potsy moves up into the lead of this race, and a little bit of contact, but Potsy takes the position cleanly from Fever.
You don't see that move up very often. Up the inside of 6, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very often, and Fever struggling to really get these hard tyres fired up. A little bit of a wobble as well coming out of turn 8. I should say turn 9. As they go through 12. Towards that final corner. And they're off and away. Looks like Potts is really using those medium tyres to full effect. Fever has to settle for second best at the moment. Jack following close behind. Al as well, but Crush unable to make much ground off the start of things. But as DRS is now going to be enabled, and you can see all the fastest laps flying in from that virtual safety car, it's now race time. Gus, DRS enabled, they're all in the train. Let's see who has the composure.
Now, I'm pretty sure with Fever losing that position, that means that Crush should be head of the championship now at the moment, as we see Tringo down the inside, a sneaky up into P7. Oh, still battling side by side.
Done yet. Sneaky wants to try and hang it around the outside on the harder combat tire. They lock wheels, Gus.
Yeah, a little bit of a wall.
Sneaky has to back out there. Trin up another spot, and he has to try and get back into that DRS range where he has now successfully done to keep moving up the chain.
Yeah, he's right on the cusp of getting DRS. He should be okay. I think the detection point's just after this final braking zone, and looks like his medium tyres give him better traction out of the corner than T-Mac, and he closes in and gets that DRS.
See that Mike has finally joined back, which is good to see. He probably won't be happy about the 5-second penalty his AI has given him.
Yep, makes a move on Sandizi on the pit straight, up into P12. Again, using those medium tyres to his advantage. And he'll be trying to chase down Apollo Pepsi's 2.5 seconds down the road, but those hards will take a little bit of time to get up to temperature. And so he'll probably get there in the next lap or 2.
Everyone in that top 11 in that DRS train. Fever getting quite close to the back of Potsy, as is Al on Jack Humphries. Jack has had a little bit of a moment. I think he's dropped out of DRS range and is desperately clinging on to it. And Al, he wants to make sure that Jack doesn't have DRS coming down this main straight, so he can get out there in clean air and do what he needs to do to stay with Potsy and Fever up in front. Yeah,
Big Al losing a little bit of time there in Sector 2. He was only 3/10 behind Jack Humphries before, and he does have DRS, but the gap now a little bit too much. He might not be able to get the move done into Turn 1. You see that he's closed that gap to 4/10. He might be able to get it done in this next DRS straight, though.
I don't think he's
no, a bit too far back, yeah. Was Sandizi's already picked up a 3-second penalty for track limits on lap 5.
I'm seeing a lot of drivers run slightly wide at the exit of turn 4, Gus, so I think that's the hot spot. Trying to carry a little bit too much speed through the corner to get the run up the hill, and I think that's what's catching a lot of these drivers out right now.
We see Mike made a little mistake, and Sandizi able to go through up into P12 again, so these two having a little bit of a battle there for the minor positions.
Man, that Aston Martin that DZ is driving is all over the place.
Yeah, either he's using Fever's setup and it's just completely set up for Fever, or he's just not running the same setup and it's not nearly as good as Fever's.
Al to the inside of Jack going into the first corner, late on the brakes, pulls the car up in time, and he takes that final spot on the podium, but he has to be careful and make sure he gets a good exit, but I think Jack's gotten a better one, Gus. We might see a counter-attack going in towards turn 4, but the Red Bull not quite close enough. Al, known for his straight line speed setups this season, and prevails once again, so he is going to maintain that third place as they go towards the technical middle sector.
Yeah, I'm guilty of stealing a lot of Big Al's time trial setups for my races this season, and I can confirm he usually runs pretty low wings. Yeah, very quick in a straight line.
Yeah, but all that time that he's lost to the leads now, 2.1 seconds. That might not sound like a lot, but in the context of things, it is a hefty bit of time, and that's a lot of time to catch up on two of the fastest drivers in the country. As there's a little bit of a battle for the wooden spoon at the moment as well. Farmer Sam around the outside of Plevs.
Yeah, saw a yellow flag in Sector 1. Looks like Plevs made a little mistake in the centre S's, and Farmer Sam capitalising there, moving up into P15.
Jack trying to capitalise with that DRS assistance into turn 1. Isn't quite close enough to make the counter-attack. Another yellow flag. This time it's Farmer Sam going off around at turn... what would that be? Turn 8.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe it came together with Plevs trying to retake his position, or if he just dropped it on his own. I'm sure we'll see after the race if it was anything untoward. Jack Humphries all over the back of Big Al here, just a couple of tenths in it. And he does seem to be making up all that time in Sector 2. And Big Al may be quicker on the straights without DRS, but DRS is assisting Jack to stay within contention of this position.
And all that Crush needs is third, and he's got it. So he's still in a decent spot to take this championship crown home. Staying in the DRS, and we're seeing these little pockets of drivers forming as the pace difference starts to spread. We're going to see an overtake now, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, with assistance of DRS, is going to go around the outside into turn 1. Big Al slips in behind. Happy to concede the position here. He'll try and have a go with DRS into turn 4. It's a fair bit closer this time. He might be able to do it, but see they're not using any of his overtakes to get it done. He knows how to play the long game. Big Al very patient. Just bide his time and wait for the right moment. He wants to save those tyres and go as long as possible.
Well, someone who can't really afford to be patient at this stage of the race is Trin. Those medium tyres are going to start wearing off sooner rather than later. We're not getting any younger, Gus.
No, absolutely not.
Try and use that advantage as we have a yellow flag. That's Apollo Pepsi around at turn 8.
Yeah, rejoins the track. He's lost a chunk of time though. He's about 5 seconds now behind Batemate. Outside of the points now. It's a shame for Pepsi, but I wonder if it's related to his gear shifting issues he was having during qualifying.
Just a little bit of an ERS update on this fight for third. Crush with almost double the amount of battery that either Al or Jack have at their disposal, sitting at a comfortable 65% while the two in front around 30. So he's the one who's playing the long game at the moment, Gus. He's saving that battery for the pit stop time, and he's going to absolutely dump it and try and get either an undercut or overcut on these two drivers in front and put himself in position to take home that winner's trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't need to do anything rash at the moment. Just stay in the DRS and get towed along. It's a very long race. Still got 27 laps to go. Anything can happen from here.
Speaking of the DRS and just being towed along, I think that's exactly what Potts is doing for FIBA at the moment. Because that gap is continuing to grow. It's nearly 3 seconds now. So even if FIBA were to somehow get a track limit penalty, which would be absolutely disastrous in any other circumstance, he almost has that bit of a gap.
Absolutely, and FIBA will be on the quicker tyres as well after his pit stop. So for him to be able to match pace with Potsy at the moment on the softer compound, it's really impressive, and I mean, expected as well with how quick FIBA is in qualifying.
Usually qualifying pace translates to race. at least in the early stages of things. But I mean, Fever's just one of the best. There's no other way of really putting it. But things have started to really settle down at the moment. Sneaky starting to put a little bit of pressure on Trin as those medium tires start to fade a little bit for the Ferrari. Looks like Fisher as well is trying to close that gap to Sneaky to get himself back in DRS range. 1.2 is the gap at the moment between himself and the McLaren. Batemate being dragged along as well. But not really much movement as of yet. People are just putting in the laps, making sure that they don't make any silly errors, any silly warnings that could hurt them later down the line, and waiting for the pit stops. And that's when the true race begins, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've only got a couple of packs at the moment. So we've got Potsy and Fever out in front, clear by about 3 seconds. We've got Jack Humphreys, Big Al and Crush in a little group for P3. Then got T-Mac with Trin and Sneaky in tow, followed by Reese Fisher. Just outside of DRS of that group, and right behind him is Batemate. And Apollo Pepsi is losing track of the points, is now blown out to a 6.5 second gap down to P11. And looks like Sanders and Mike might be having a little battle shortly for P12. Mike on those medium tyres, but I expect they're going to start falling off the cliff shortly. We're expecting him to the pits around about lap 16.
Yeah, so they have to do another 5 laps on a Sandesi runs.
Ooh.
Pretty wide through turn 4. Might give Mike a little bit of an opportunity.
No,
Mike
stagnant. Mike went even wider. He just completely missed the apex for turn 4. The Haas going almost out to the wall. Rejoins.
That wide?
He went very wide.
I think there's a little bit bit more runoff between the edge of the track and the wall there.
Oh, as we see Sanders, he drops it.
There's a Spinella for the
Oh,
Aston Martin.
he's lost his front wing, reverses back onto the track. Thankfully, King J is able to avoid.
Very narrow window. King J might actually have to lift through that fast left hand. Because he has to take such a tight line. Plev's picking up a penalty as well for track limits. And Farmer Sam spinning as well at turn 7. So these medium runners are starting to struggle a little bit. Well, and Sandesi, I guess, but, you know.
Well, speaking of
things.
Medium runners, Fever now less than half a second behind Potsy, so I'd say Potsy's medium starting to give up as well. See, Fever's closed up right behind him in Sector 2. As Sandesi has retired in the pits already. I think he might have picked up some other damage as well early in the race.
That wouldn't surprise me. He's been trying to handle a very twitchy car. He's done well to make it last 11 laps, but unfortunately the race is 36.
That's it, third of the way through already. And Fever biding his time, waiting for Potsy to run out of grip on those tyres. Getting a little bit of a look further back through. Big Al maintaining the gap to Jack Humphreys. It's 3/10 at the moment.
I'm struggling to figure out whether this is good or not for Big Al in this scenario, because Jack is using his battery to try and stay in front, and now Al has a significant ERS advantage. But at the same time, the gap between himself and Fever is still growing by the second. Well, by the 10th, I guess, would be more accurate. But,
as it stands, Fever's going to gain 6 points on Big Al. And is that enough for Fever to jump Big Al in the championship?
Yep, there's only 3 points separating them at the moment.
At the moment, Crush still in P5, so he's going to gain 10 points.
As things stand right now, Crush is still in position. But the second that Potsy pits, then Fever will be in position.
So Crush has to outscore both Big Al and Fever by 15 points, is that correct?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, actually, the other way around, really.
All right, yeah. So
the others need to outscore.
They need to score.
By 15. That's why Crush's objective very simple: just get on that podium.
Yep, absolutely.
You don't have to worry about anything else.
Oh, we've got.
Flag as Farmer Sam has put it into the wall where Hamilton did a few years ago.
And it's full safety car.
The full safety car. Now this is a godsend for all the medium runners. But it's a long way for these hard runners to go to the end. What happens now?
So we can assume that there's going to be a couple of laps under the safety car. But yeah, as we see, the medium tyres have lasted 14 laps, and we've already seen a few of them really struggle. Well, we've had 2 DNFs already on the mediums. Yeah, they're not going to go to the end from here.
The longest I've seen, like, the talk is, I mean, by that I mean from bait, right? the longest that the mediums can go without popping is around 17 to 18 laps, I think.
Well, hard runners are coming in as well.
I mean, you have to, like, otherwise you're just going to be out of the points. So going to be a very busy pit lane, guys. The pit crew is getting their money's worth today.
Oh, absolutely. So they're just going to have to hope that there's going to be another safety car later in the race for those medium runners to change onto some softs to...
Or just bring out their inner Checo Perez and do absolutely everything in their power to make sure these tyres last the end. Now, the safety car will help. The safety car will help manage the tyre wear. But it's still a long way to go.
I think Trin...
Remember back to the end of the Japan race, where there was an early safety car, people put on the medium tyres and tried to risk it towards the end. You wanna know who got a puncture in that one, Gus?
I'm guessing Fever?
It was Fever. Fever got a puncture in that one. Al had pit early, like during the green flag racing, because he didn't think that the tyres were gonna last. He ended up finishing that race in 6th, and Crush had held on for a podium, stretching those tyres out towards the end.
Well, it's going to be interesting because all 3 of our championship protagonists are on the medium tyre now, so they all have to manage their tyres to the end here if they don't want to have to stop.
The problem is that Fever and Al need a race win. They need a race win, or something catastrophic to happen to Crush, which hasn't really happened all season.
But on the medium tyre, it has to last 21 laps. Could happen if he gets a puncture. So
yeah.
Very well poised at the moment. Now, I think Trin has actually benefited from this pit stop. He's come out ahead. He's P6 now on the hard tyre. And I think Reese Fisher has dropped way down to P10. And I think that's because he had to double stack with Crush, who he's obviously sharing a garage with. And that's
how Trin and Sneaky got in front of T-Mac as well.
Yeah, obviously Big Al. Yep.
The 2 places in the pit stops. But I guess for the time being, like, T-Mac does have the tyre and the pace advantage, because he's been on fire around this track over the past 2 weeks. So I guess he has a good shot, but with how wide these cars are and how really tightly competitive the grid is, it's going to be a tough ask for anybody to make their way through with only a tyre advantage.
Yeah, so I'm actually thinking Aussie might be best place here to get the race win. If he, I mean, obviously Bieber's going to be pretty quick on those mediums to start with, but Potsy can go all the way to the end here on those hard tyres, and he shows great pace as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's right in the medium to hard pit window. Like, these hard tyres can comfortably make it to the end of the race. So that benefits everyone. This also gives Mike a bit of a chance in P12 to secure some fringe points. If he's able to capitalize when the medium tyres start to die off around lap 7 or 8 of the stint. But the safety car is coming in, those lights are out, and Potsy is getting ready for the restart, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. So safety car's pulling away. He's starting to back up the field and generate some temperature in those tyres by weaving. Safety car is in pit lane, so he can go at any point without getting rate limited. As Plevs has just caught the back of the train as well, so he's timed it well. And there goes Potsy. And I think Feber is right on it, but look at Big Al. He's right on the back of Jack Humphries as well. He's not going to...
the only one. Look at Trin around the outside. It's 3 wide going into turn 1, Gus. There's contact between Crush and Big Al. Crush is able to hold on to the car, but he loses the position to Trin. Trin now up into 5th place. Sneaky and T-Mac trading place as well, a bit further back, but it's a good restart for our race leader, Potsy. But Crush trying to stop the bleeding now.
And T-Mac actually had to leave the track at the center S's because of them going 3 wide, and he's lost the most from that. And also note as well that Jack Humphries a bit further up as Trin goes side by side with Crush for P5 still. And he'll take that position, but Jack Humphries has picked up a 3-second penalty for exceeding track limits, so that's going to put him out of podium contention and puts Big Al up onto the third step, as we still see Crush and Trin go side by side, and Crush arm wrestles that position back and goes back into the top 5.
Crush's tyres weren't ready off that restart. I don't know how Trin was able to get those hards fired up the way that he did, but Crush's tyres weren't ready, and that's what gave Trin the opportunity, and Crush fought valiantly for that position. And he has to push as hard as he possibly can to try and catch back up into DRS. Because if he loses DRS, it's game over, Gus.
Yeah,
State as well has had a bit of an issue at the back.
Yeah, don't know if it was contact or he just spun on cold medium tyres, but he is dropped all the way back to the back of the field. Is Sneaky trying to get past Trin. Oh, had to get right out of the throttle there as he was understeering into the side of the Ferrari, and that's going to compromise him down into turn 4. We see T-Mac moving to the inside, and he's got a very, very good run, and he'll... Oh, as he's still side by side. Sneaky gets pushed right up onto the curb, but he's got the inside line for the next corner here, and I think he should be able to send it down the inside. He leaves the space for T-Mac around the outside, but this gives him the inside to the next corner as well. T-Mac actually picks up a 3-second penalty for track limits as well. I think there was still space for him, but I think it was a little bit of contact there that just pushed T-Mac a little bit wide there, and now he's picked up a penalty as well.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo. We'll see what the stewards have to say post-race. That might get appealed because it was during wheel-to-wheel combat, but we shall wait and see. Crush has used absolutely everything from his battery, Gus, but he's got in that DRS range, and that's what he needs in order to stay competitive. And you can tell that he sets the fastest lap, 109.7, as we start lap 19 of 36.
Yeah, he's gapped Trin as well by 1.5 seconds, so he won't get any more threats from behind until those hards overtake the mediums for pace. We see Plevs moving up into P10. He does have a penalty as well for exceeding track limits. Going to jump a bit further up as Sneaky versus Trin again. Oh, and a bit of contact. The Ferrari is tapping the McLaren in the side pod. So he goes through turn 4, and he does come out on top, and he covers the inside as well to prevent Sneaky going down the inside the next corner.
Apollo Pepsi with a nice move at the back as well on Mike for 11th place up the inside of 4. So the Williams driver making up positions. But a great scrap we're seeing between Sneaky and T-Mac.
Yeah, T-Mac tried to go around the outside in Sector 2. Doesn't often work there as the camber really helps the driver on the inside. And Sneaky now slotting in behind Trin in P7. Hope to use DRS into turn 1 to get his move done.
So the mind games at the front start to begin. Will Fieber overtake Potsy to try and control the pace of the field? And maybe even potentially break away from those behind. He opts to stay behind for the time being, trying to save his tyres, because these tyres have a long way to go, Gus. But Potsy has used absolutely everything of his battery, and I think this is going to be a very easy move for Fieber as he goes to the outside of turn 4, and he is back in the lead of things and in position to take home his 3rd championship in a row.
Yeah, still battling as well for P6 between Sneaky and Trin. Sneaky moves ahead again. This time I think he might be able to hold on to the position. Trin's now coming under a bit of pressure from T-Mac.
Oh, T-Mac trying to switch back through turns 6 and 7 into 8. Gets right on the back of Trin. Trin has a little bit of a moment.
Yeah, it looks like those hards are still not up to temperature. He's really struggling in the low-speed corners to get the traction he needs.
Yeah, asking a little bit too much as these medium tyres are in their proper window. And it looks like Fisher and the AlphaTauri has joined the party as well, Gus.
Absolutely. We're going to jump ahead to Jack Humphries, who's making a move on Podsy on the pit straight. And Fieber has absolutely bolted, setting the fastest lap with a 109.104. He's pulled 7 tenths on Podsy and Jack Humphries. And the Red Bull moving up into P2. And Podsy looking a little bit vulnerable at the moment on those hard tyres.
He also has absolutely no battery as well. And I think Big Al going to go up the inside, going into 4. Potsy doesn't fight that one too hard. He gives him a little bit of a squeeze. But a nice move from Al. He puts himself on that podium.
Keeping an eye on Trin, T-Mac and Reese Fisher having a battle for P7 a little bit further back. And the AlphaTauri slots in between the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo.
T-Mac gives the AFR a little bit of a bump as well, heading into turn 8. He's getting very close to that diffuser. A little bit of a love tap, and a nice catch there as well from the Alfa Romeo driver. Things are getting spicy now, Gus. We only have 15 laps to go. So this race has flown by in a flash. And it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jack Humphries still staying close to FIBA with the assistance of DRS. He does have that 3-second penalty, though, which is going to put him down the order. As we see Reese Fisher getting past Trent on the pit straight. Moves back up to P7.
I fear that these medium runners are stressing the tyres a little bit too much. While I think it may be possible to stretch them to the end with the help of the safety car laps, you still need to look after them, and with how much these drivers are fighting and going off track, offline, and whatnot, it's not going to be doing the tyres any favours. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. They've got to try and get them to go much longer than they're meant to. I think that'll play into the hard runners.
T-Mac, he's got so much grip on confidence on these mediums. He's almost pushing Trent through this middle sector at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to be losing a lot of time getting stuck behind the Ferrari on those hard tyres. He really needs to try and get past on the pit straight this time around.
Both Ferraris defending at the moment. Pepsi has caught the back of Plevs for that final point as well. So making a good recovery is the Williams after a bit of a subpar start and a few spins earlier in that first stint. Meanwhile, at the front looks like Humphries and Fever have a broken DRS, if not barely. And yeah, Al's got nothing going down towards turn 4.
Yeah, I think Big Al's been using a lot of his juice to try and break out of DRS range of Potsy. As you say, he's fallen back out of DRS range. Jack Humphries and Fever at the front. And if he's not careful, that'll leave him pretty vulnerable to Potsy and Crush behind.
This is also good news for Feber, because he doesn't have to worry about Jack because he has that 3-second time penalty. So even if the Red Bull overtakes, he'll still be in position. But since he is with Feber in this duo, pulling away from the rest of the field, his Jack's 3 seconds mean, like, even once the gap grows, he'll be able to still finish in front of Crush despite that 3-second time penalty.
What does that mean with Big Al going up to P2? Because that will put him only 7 points, maybe 8 points behind Feber if he takes the win. So that's still good enough for him to claim a third championship.
There's only 3 points between Feber and Alice.
Right, so
around the outside.
Oh, he's tapped Humphries and he spun him. Humphries is around.
That could be big.
Crush moves up to P4, Big Al up to second. And could Feber get a post-race penalty for that?
Oh, if that's the way the championship's decided, that's going to leave a sour taste in, I think, a lot of people's mouths. But not as much as that Aston Martin driver. He just needs to have, stay focused, stay composed, head down, and just do what he needs to do. But with that incident, that does mean that Crush is one step closer to being in that podium place, where it doesn't even matter what the other two in front of him do.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Al, though, inside DRS range of Feber now. And Potsy and Crush very close behind 2. Sneaky, though, 6 seconds behind the top 4. And he's got quite the train behind him going down to P9.
A little bit of a fight at the back as well. Batemate recovering from that spin on the safety car restart. Gets past his friend and McLaren driver King J. Up into 12th, about 7, nearly 8 seconds behind Pepsi in P11. And Jack, well, he's already on the move, Gus.
Yeah, he's gone from
inside of Sneaky.
Yeah, on the pit straight, using the assistance of DRS. Sneaky doesn't have a lot of defense from him as T-Mac finally gets past Trent. And moves up to P8.
Through this center S to try and come back at the Alfa Romeo, but had a little bit of a bit delayed going on the power, and that does mean that T-Mac has made the move stick. About time.
Yeah, it's taken quite a while. Those mediums are 10 laps old already, so they are close to starting to lose some pace, as we saw in the first stint. It was around lap 12 that the medium runners began to slip and slide and lose some of their speed.
Makes things very interesting at the front of things. Oh, I think Al's just done enough. 0.987 going through the detection point, Gus. He's just staying in that DRS range at the moment.
Yeah, you can see his rear wing open at the moment, and he's got the gap down to 5/10 as he goes through the center S's. And he should pick up DRS as well on this second straight. It looks like FIBA just has the raw pace now. Maybe FIBA's going to just absolutely bring out every bit of performance in these tyres, just in case he does get a post-race penalty for that contact with Jack Humphreys. Because if he can pull out a 5-second gap, then, well, he could still win this championship.
Well, yeah, then it doesn't really matter what happens in the stewarding room on Wednesday. But that's not the only thing he has to worry about. The more he pushes those tyres to try and get that gap, the more likely it is he's going to get a puncture at the end of this race. And he's already suffered one of them a few rounds ago. And if he had held on to that position, he wouldn't be in this situation right now.
Absolutely. Potsy's still looking pretty good as Big Al has dropped out of DRS range now. Oh, he's right on the edge. Has he got it? No. His rear wing is not open.
Well, you can see the gap's still coming down.
I know, that's that Big Al setup with no wing at all.
Get it back going through the center S. Incredible.
Such a slippery car, that Alfa Romeo. And, yep, he's got that DRS flap open again.
When I was on the grid, Gus, there was a term that was going around known as the Alpha Tauri rocket ship back in seasons 7, 8, and 9. But it's the Alfa Romeo rocket ship now. Holy!
Yeah, absolutely. You could see there, it definitely didn't have DRS, and he was just pulling so much time on FIBA. You can see FIBA must be running a lot more wing than Big Al is, and you can see also that Big Al's losing all of that time in the Sector 2, which requires that extra downforce to be able to do it quickly. So he's 1.1 seconds behind, but he might just be able to get inside DRS range on the straight if he has another really good run, but you can see he doesn't have the pace in that Sector 2 to really compete with FIBA at the moment.
Just having a little bit of a look at the closest gap on this track at the moment, and it's the one for the wooden spoon at the moment, Gus.
Get down.
Mike and PJ doing battle.
Mike just half a second behind King J. He's on the hard tyres, so expect to see him get a little bit more pace as King J's mediums drop off the cliff, and that'll start to happen now. Those medium tyres are 13 laps old. We did spend a couple of laps on a safety car, but they will start to lose performance over the next few laps, and so we start getting to puncture territory towards the back end of this race with just 8 laps to go.
Yeah, there's no room for error, especially these top 4. Absolutely nothing left in it. When is that crossover point going to be? My guess is it's going to be around lap 31, maybe 32, where Potsy is just going to have a clear and outright pace advantage just because those medium tyres are just done, Gus. They're done. They need a long weekend as well.
Absolutely. You can see there the gap between Potsy and Big Al down to half a second now, so he's really closing that gap up to Big Al. And Big Al also on the pit straight has DRS again.
Slipstream's going to be enough for the Alfa Romeo to hold the Williams at bay. I wonder how much pace is left in these top 3 and see, if they really test Crush to see what the raw speed is from these 4 drivers up front. Big Al really. I mean, he's not out of this championship either. This is for position. This is still for the championship. If FIBA loses this lead to Big Al could be on the verge of claiming his first driver's title.
Absolutely. Still a bit of a question mark over FIBA with that contact. And it just looks like he doesn't have the pace on this tyre to be able to pull out a gap big enough to negate that if he does get a post-race penalty. So, yeah, I think, as we said at the start of the race, Crush just has to finish on the podium to guarantee that he wins this championship.
And, because even if Big Al wins with fastest lap, and and Crush comes third. Crush, actually no. If Big Al does get faster and wins the race, he will win on countback. My mistake. So if Crush finishes third, Al wins the race with fastest lap, mind you. They're equal on points at the end. Al will win on countback because Crush has only won a single race this season. A lot of seconds, a lot of thirds, but only a single victory.
Kebab in the chat, we need Big Al to hit Fever. So, so Big Al needs the fastest lap as well. So if he gets the fastest lap, finishes where they are. If Fever does have a post-race penalty from the stewards, we've got a yellow flag. Reese Fisher's out.
That's Fisher. That could be another safety car.
It is another safety car! Oh, what's Fever going to do? Is Fever going to... He has to come in for softs.
You have to come in for softs.
Absolutely. Oh, this has just turned on its head with 6 laps to go in the championship decider for AFR Season 10. And we have a safety car with 6 laps to go. They all come into the pits, but Crush has stayed out! Crush has stayed out!
Crush only needs a podium.
He's on used mediums. So Crush has taken the lead of the race. If he finishes in this position, he will win the championship, but everyone else who is a championship contender has just pit for fresh, soft tyres. And I think he has as well. Like, he is going to have to absolutely defend like a lion and then some to be able to keep this championship. But this has just turned everything on its head.
Aussie has jumped Al in the pits as well. I think.
He has. How has Potsy managed that? And he must have just gained a bit of time on pit entry and just had a slightly quicker pit stop.
No, Al was the one in front.
Oh, yeah, Potsy, I mean, must have just had a quicker pit stop. Unless he got held, maybe, because the game, even though we do play with the ghosting in pit lane, you do get held sometimes. And I wonder if that's just cost him there, Big Al. But, oh, this has hurt Crush so much. The only car that didn't pit under that safety car was King J, who actually pit onto the mediums 2 laps before the safety car was called, but he's all the way down in 13th. Absolutely everyone else on the grid is on brand new soft tyres. And like you said, I think Crush might have thrown this one unless he can get those elbows out. I think the pressure might have got to him, might have just panicked there and just made the wrong call under that safety car. And it's
going to take a while for Mike and King J to catch up to the queue. They're about 50 seconds behind Crush at the moment. So it's going to take a couple of laps for them to catch up. But there's always a minimum of 2 racing laps. That's how the game works. We can't end under safety car. As much as, I would like to pull a Michael Massey and just pull it in with 1 lap to go.
Absolutely.
After that, there's always a guaranteed 2 racing laps at the end of every race.
So Sam, just to explain where Crush needs to finish to win it, if he finishes P3 and Big Al doesn't win with the fastest lap, Crush is guaranteed to win the championship. However, if he's on the podium. So Crush has to finish on the podium in order to win the championship confirmed. If he finishes off the podium, he needs to not be outscored.
If he finishes off the podium, either Fever or Al need to win the race, and whoever wins that race is the champion.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but looking at the championship standings, I think Big Al needs to outscore Crush by 15 points, and Fever needs to outscore Crush by 18 points in order to win the championship. So Crush, he can still do it, but he has to absolutely fight for every single position.
You sure your math's right?
I'm not sure that that's right. I did look at it beforehand, but it was...
Okay, according to it's a 11-point difference.
11.
198 to 187 to Big Al.
Right.
It's 198 to 184 for Mr. Ryan Bell.
So it's about 10 points he has to outscore them by. Sorry, that he has to not be outscored by.
I mean, this is why we need a statistician.
That's it.
That was when you need him.
So we're going around again. As you pointed out, the field's pretty spread out, so it looks like we're going to get no more than 3 laps at the end of this race.
If you're either Fever or Big Al at the moment, you're hoping that King J's pushing with absolutely everything that he's got. to catch the back of this safety car queue. So
Uh,
you have one extra lap to try and get it done. But we're in for a Netflix Drive to Survive style finish, Gus.
I know this is being manipulated, man. It's King J's also pit for fresh soft tires as well. It's why he's a little bit further back, but he will catch them before the end.
We're gonna have 3 laps to go. King J even runs off the track. He's pushing so hard to get to the back of this queue.
Absolutely. So this is going to absolutely be an insane finish here. Season 10 of Aussie Formula Racing Tier 1. This is the final race we're going to do on F1 22, and we have an absolute blockbuster. Don't go anywhere. We will have the deciding of this championship in the next 5 minutes, so stick around. And there it is, the safety car is in at the end of this lap. Crush on 18 lap old mediums, needs to try and finish on the podium to guarantee that he wins this championship. He's in control of the field under the safety car as it pulls away. They're all desperately weaving their tyres, everyone behind him on fresh soft tyres. He needs to get his elbows out. So much for these 3 laps that we have to the checkered flag.
He's gone. We are racing once again. I was about to say he either has to go really early or really late, Gus, but he's called it somewhere in the middle, and it's only half a second between himself and Fever. 34 of 36 is Sneaky trying to make a move into turn 1 with Jack Humphries. And the Red Bull slightly gets through, gets a little bit of a wobble. Sneaky going side by side as well as they're having a drag race down towards turn number 4. They're banging wheels as well, Gus. But it looks like the McLaren will have the inside line heading into that corner. Has to leave room for the Red Bull on the outside. They're still having a drag race as they go up the hill.
And here we go. Crush covering the inside into the next corner. Fever tries to go around the outside. Every bit of gain that Crush made on that safety car restart has gone after Center S. And look at Potsy go down the inside of Fever. They're almost 3 wide going through the second sector. Crush is getting overtaken by Fever on the inside. And here comes Potsy as well. Big Al right behind there, side by side. Crush and Potsy. Crush has the inside. He should stay in front of Potsy. But that's inside for the next corner as well. And he drops down to 3rd. And here comes Big Al. Crush is down to P3.
Yeah, Crush still in position to take this championship, but all eyes on this Alfa Romeo versus the AFR. The 2 Alphas going at it. They're both using absolutely everything in the battery, but I think Crush is going to run out of deployment almost as they start lap 35 and 36 to the outside. Goes the Alfa Romeo, clean around.
Oh, he stepped in!
To squeeze the apex, and he's done it. Fever is now in position to take his 3rd championship in a row, Gus.
And here comes Jack Humphries around the outside of Crush. Those mediums have absolutely fallen off the cliff. And here comes Jack Humphries passing Crush for P4. Crush now down to 5th. And that's only going to be 10 points to his name. And as he shouted out, Fever is in the prime position to get this championship. As we see Big Al going down the inside of Potsy. Is he going to be able to hold it? He does. Big Potsy goes too wide. Big Al up into P2. He's dropped a 2.5 to Fever. But Fever does have that question mark on him about whether or not he will get a post-race penalty for contact with Jack Humphries earlier in the race. So Big Al needs to try and stay as close to Fever as possible in this final lap and a half. As Crush down to P5. He looks like he's got enough of a gap ahead of Sneaky that he won't go any further. As you see, Trent has had a spin and he's out of the race.
Yeah, true. I think it had a little bit of a contact there, or either just got up on the curb. I didn't quite see what happened to it through the apex of turn 12. But we have 1 more tour to go, and that's Fever at the fastest lap, 108.7.
So it's an extra point for him.
Time, Gus.
And there we go, Jack Humphries down the inside of Podsy up onto the podium. He does have a 6-second penalty for track limits, so he will tumble down as well. That may actually promote Crush up to P4, but that won't be enough as the McLaren of King J has had a spin at the Center S's as well.
Fever 1.7, 1.8 out in front. He's done everything that he needed to do this race. And here I am trying to remember the exact words that James Allen used all those years ago back in 2007. Or 2008, sorry, my bad, I think. Yeah. I need to get the years right. My goodness. 2008. 1.9 seconds. He's done all he's needed to do now. Allen, 2nd place. Fought valiantly 2 seconds. Jack Humphries still showing that he's got some pace in that Red Bull car, but Crush making the wrong call on those medium tyres. But it's all props to Fever for the first time in AFR history as he's weaving across the start-finish straight in celebration. The 3-peat. For the Aston Martin, the Kiwi driver, it's Ryan Bell, your Season 10 Drivers' Champion provisionally. but it's all in the Stewart's hands now, Gus.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a fight right to the finish between Big Al and Jack Humphries. I think Jack Humphries might have actually just got his nose ahead, but that 6-second penalty has dropped him way down to P8. And there we have it, our provisional champion for Tier 1 Season 10 of Aussie Formula Racing is Fever. Ryan Bell, congratulations. Provisionally, we do need to wait to see if there are any post-race reports about the contact before that final safety car. Oof, it's going to be an intense couple of days. But here he is. Fever for Aston Martin. As you say, 3 championships has never been done before in a row here at Aussie Formula Racing. So hats off to Fever. And he only attended about 50% of the races this season as well. He's spent a bit of time away. So to be able to claw back a championship deficit as big as it was, absolutely hats off to this man. But yeah, we won't confirm it just yet. We will wait a couple of days before the announcement will go up. And well done to Big Al as well. Gave it absolutely everything in that final race to finish P2. Just 1.8 seconds off Fever there. And Fever picks up that 1.4 fastest lap as well. Potsy, great race again. P3. Crush ended up P4. And he's 4.3 seconds off Fever. Whoa. So if Fever does get a 5-second penalty, Crush gets promoted to the podium. And Big Al does not have the fastest lap. So Crush would get the championship if Fever does get a 5-second penalty. So that will be absolutely mental if that does happen. And we will keep you posted on the Aussie Formula Racing Discord in our announcements at the outcome of that penalty. Whew. Well, that was absolutely intense. I'm going to have to go have a walk before... Oh, no, I've got to jump into Tier 2 in about 5 seconds, so... I thought I had more time than that. I'm worked up. I need to cool down, so... Alright, so thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Don't go anywhere, though. We do have Tier 2 starting up in about 2 minutes. That will be commentated by Apollo Pepsi, and Mick, I think, is hanging around as well to do that again. So thank you so much for joining us for Tier 1. Stick around. We'll be right back for the Tier 2 Championship Decider as well. It's not done and dusted yet. Go have a cool drink or something just to calm down after that one, and we'll get right back on it in just a few moments' time. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Mick, as well, for commentating with me, and we'll see you shortly.